summer a couple of years ago, and I was hot, sweaty, covered in flour, and my feet hurt. It was a long night at a Texas Roadhouse, and I was cutting some rolls, and I remember thinking, man, I can't wait till I can work at a desk somewhere and work sitting down. But my luck was about to change. See, my parents, God bless them, had heard of Apprentice University and were willing to support me and give me a second chance at a post-secondary education. This is fantastic because I knew there was more for me in this world. My parents knew I was destined for more. And most importantly, God had bigger plans for me.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So on to AU I went to meet Mr. B. And when I came in to interview, I got to meet him before I interviewed with the people. And he was asking me what I thought of AU. And I can't remember exactly what I said, but something along the lines of, oh, yeah, AU isn't a real college. And boom, he cut me off right there with a straight face and was like, yes, it is. Oh, man, I about crapped my pants. Not only had this guy just created this school, he was still in charge of it, and I just sort of insulted it. Thankfully, they still let me come in here. Mr. B was monumental on this journey, though. He loved and taught us as if we were his own children. And what else? I already talked about that. So despite insulting the school, he still loved and taught us as we were children. He was very hard on us, but he just wanted the best for us. And he taught an entrepreneurship class, which you've heard a little bit about today already, and that was an extremely hard course for a lot of us. And it ended with Sweat Tank or Shark Tank that you've heard a little bit about. And man, that was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. We didn't have to present to Mr. B or some facilitators here or just people within our classroom. Now, he decided to go out into Indianapolis and get other business leaders and bring them in, and then I had to convince them to give me $1 million to invest in this business. Man, yeah, that was hard. But Mr. B had a great saying that hard's not bad, it's just hard. And that's something I strive to keep in the back of my mind when I have to do other difficult things. And now, before going into my apprenticeships, I wanted to highlight just some of the classes I had. I kind of focused more on my apprenticeships and the classes. So to speed run this real quick, accounting. Thank you, Mrs. Clausen and fellow student Evan for teaching me accounting and business math. Cultural connections with Guy Armstrong. Thank you for teaching me how to do business in other countries and opening my mind to the idea of possibly working abroad. Professional communications and know what you believe with Mr. Osborne. Mr. Osborne, thank you for teaching me how to speak well publicly and to know why I believe what I believe and how to share that with others in a way that they can understand. The Great Reset with Mr. Lance. Thank you for teaching me how to research deep into topics and how to write policy memos that can make an impact and educate others. Creative writing with Mr. Hudson. Thank you for teaching me the importance of writing, whether it's creative or journaling, and how you can leave a legacy behind that, via that. Visual communications and content and copywriting. Thank you. There's Jen. Is Fox still here? Oh, that's all right. Thank you, Jen and Fox, for teaching me how to design and create content that is impactful while looks awesome at the same time. All right. So I learned a bunch of cool things from those classes, but you might be wondering, well, what came after I went through all those classes? What Vertical does a billion, cajillion times better than any school, apprenticeships. And my first one was at Helmer Scientific. And Mr. B had lined it up for me already, and I'll touch on that in a little bit in a moment. But this is a huge corporation. Helmer is now bought by Train, which when I looked it up, it was like $98 billion worth. Absolutely massive. And so it was a wonderful experience to go and work at this business. I was in the sales operation sides of things with Montana. Ended up being more on the contract side of things. So if you can think of every hospital that you know, every small clinic, and then every small clinic and hospital around the world and what network they're associated with, I was going around verifying that those hospitals and clinics were still part of that same network and that we had the right address on file so they could get the discount via the contract that we had. And I didn't love it. It was just all right. I felt like a cog in a machine that was so big that it didn't really need me. But it's all right, though. I learned something I didn't want to do, and I had to work at Texas Roadhouse to learn also what I didn't want to do. Now, For my next apprenticeship, it was right here within these walls. You heard Ethan talking about it. I got to work for the Vertical Studios. It was about this time that AU transitioned to Vertical, and I actually had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Wheeler before he became the owner. I don't know if you remember this. I was working along that back wall there one day, and he came over and sat down to me and ironically asked me what I thought of AU at the time. And no mention if it was a real college or not this time around. And so I asked him, I was like, so are you like going to be a facilitator here, teach a class? And he's like, no, I'm just a fan. And I was like, cool. Little did I know he'd be the new sheriff in town. And he created Vertical Studios, which, man, that was a great experience. Getting to design things and enhance my art skills, and especially what Ethan said, getting to work with people and bond with them in-house, that was just wonderful. And so I think everybody we learned how to manage our time and resources much better via Jared with the pressure he added onto us. And while it's a skill I haven't fully mastered yet, I definitely came a long way on how to manage my time and resources via Vertical Studios. Now, on to my last and current apprenticeship. It's at Hudson Star Greens Mowers with Mr. Hudson back there. And before I started there, back up for a second. So yeah, this is about the time that Mr. Wheeler also added to the tool wall of tools we needed to add to our belt was you need to go out and network and find your own apprenticeships. I was a bit mad at this at the time. I was like, man, can you just hook me up? You know all the people. But that's all right. That was a great skill that I needed to develop, and I'm very thankful for now for you pushing that. And so I was sitting in Mr. Hudson's class one day, and I had this thought poking the back of my head, probably God nudging me along, saying, hey, you should ask Mr. Hudson if he knows anybody or has any opportunities at his business. And sure enough, he did, and he was ready to take me on, and now I do sales with Hudson Star. But this apprenticeship is a little more unique, even more than that. Mr. Hudson's actually a pastor at a church somewhere, and he's around a decent amount, but he can't always be around, and he really needed somebody to step up to the plate and turn his vision into reality. And that's what I'm currently doing. I'll still be there for a little while afterwards, but Mylane, I'm learning all sorts of skills like sales, local and international, pipeline development, distribution, email marketing, customer service. That's just some of them. The list goes on and on and on. Tools that I've already added to my tool belt, and I've got some slots open because I need to get some more of them. But yeah, so far it's been a wonderful experience. Now, what does my future look like after today? Well, I'll still be at Hudson Star till at least April or May. I can't remember. I don't know when exactly, but I plan on being there long afterwards, at least a year, if Mr. Hudson will keep me around, that is. He's got quite the vision for Hudson Star, and I'm in it for the long haul, and I'm excited to see it through. After Hudson Star, though, if I decide to move on, I'm not sure what God has in store for me. But that's the most important thing, though, is God has a plan for me, and I trust that he's already laying the foundation forward for that path. It'll most likely be in some sort of sales or marketing, but thanks to the Lord, my parents, the facilitators and support staff here, Mr. B, Mr. Wheeler, and all the knowledge and skills, tools that I've gained here along the way, I'm ready for whatever comes my way. Thank you.